in Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Hello, Illinois. How's it going? Another episode of As Illinois Burns. Today's topic, we are going to go ahead and check out this Facebook video that is going around and causing such havoc. It's amazing. It's crazy. But I'm going to go ahead and flip this around. I'm going to play this video, and then we're going to talk about it. Hey, Lisa.
Thank you for the chair. I'm Michael Strauss, family law attorney in Lake Duke County. I'm also vice president of A Safe Place and secretary of the Family Law Section Council of the Illinois State Bar Association, and I happen to also be the co-author of the Illinois State Bar's resolution against this bill. Currently, the state of Illinois gets federal funding and grants, and individuals obviously get state aid. There's very real potential for this state to lose federal funding, and I'm talking millions, possibly hundreds of millions of dollars, as well as parents not being eligible for the state aid. This issue has not been addressed by those in favor of this law, and so potentially Illinois loses a lot of money, poor families lose more money, and our state gets less money.
What's in the best interest of the kid is not to worry about how much federal dollars we're going to get for food stamps in this country. Ridiculous.
There's already litigation on that issue, isn't there, when there was 50-50 for parents?
There is, and I've been speaking with some of the judges in Cook County. They brought up that there's been ungodly amounts of litigation to ensure that the people kept their food stamps, because frankly, it's life or death. Without them, they have a big problem.
So let's make sure that we keep our kids out there. Let's keep the fight on so that we can continue to get food stamps. I want my people off of food stamps. Yeah. What do you mean?
Amen, LaShawn.
It's ridiculous to even bring that up.
Let's keep that down in the back, please. We want to stay on the rails.
All I know is that not more than 2 minutes ago, you asked me not to rebut a question, and yet...
I understand that. I'm trying to keep everybody to the same set of rules to the best of my ability.
Okay, so I hope you guys could all hear that. So this video of this guy, and so let me give you a little bit of background. This is Michael Strauss. He is an attorney with the Illinois State Bar Association. He is sitting in for the Illinois State Bar Association as in opposition to House Bill 4113, which is the Equal Shared Parenting Bill. He made these statements in committee And then I'm not sure where this video came from, but it was compiled, it was put together of his statements out here. Something that we've been talking about for a long, long time within our inner circles is Title IV defunding. Okay? And so what Title IV defunding is we're going to talk about this real quick, because in the Social Security Act, and you guys can go to just Google browser. You can type in Social Security Act Title 4D, and you can just click on that, and it's going to pull you up to a little section. And then you're going to go down to Section D. And when you get down to Section D, you're going to look at all the little areas in there. Well, there's an area in there that I want to look at specifically right now. It's called incentive payments to states. Okay? Incentive payments to states. The name in itself is disgusting. Okay? So I'm going to give you a little bit of substance of what Michael Strauss is talking about, what the state has to lose, and then what the real loss is, because it's not a loss to the state of Illinois. Who it's a loss to is it's a loss to the disabled people whose benefits are going to start getting cut come 2023, when we can no longer afford to make the full payments out of for Social Security. So here we go. This section of the Social Security Act in Title IV, Section D, is called incentive payments to states. Okay, so states are getting money, these millions, hundreds of millions of dollars he's talking about money coming into the state. It's for things like this. Okay, so this particular part refers to child support enforcement. Okay, so what they're doing here, this is an incentive payment to the state to collect child support enforcement. Okay, and it's broke down into 5 categories in which they can collect. And then there's a table on their performance level, whatever percentage. We'll get into that as we get down here, but let me get to these for you real quick. A, the paternity establishment performance level. Okay, the support order performance level. Okay, so the paternity establishment performance level, I know you guys know about VAP, and later on down the road when we start getting into paternity fraud, we're going to talk a lot more about VAPs, but that's another discussion for another day. Jody Scott Flynn, I know you guys are out there. It's coming, brother. I promise you, Scott, it's coming. We're working on it, bro, but there's a lot entailed in it. Okay. The paternity establishment performance level is A. That's how many cases they establish paternity in. B, the support order performance level. That is, so the support order performance level, so that's how many support orders they establish. Okay? The current payment performance level, so people who are making current payments to child support. So if they're let's say they've got 100 million owed in, and they've collected 100 million. So that means they've met 100% of their obligation. They're going to get 100% of their base amount or their allotment to their state. Okay? And we're going to go back up to the top, and we're going to talk about baselines here in a few minutes. Okay, so then that's the current payment performance level. The arrearage payment level. Okay, so this is funny. This one is really funny because if they let you build up arrearages, then that's one more, and then they start collecting on those arrearages, even if it's $1 a month, whatever it is. They start collecting on that. That's one more incentive payment where they're taking money out of our Social Security Act. Right now, they're taking it away from our elderly and our disabled in this country. And Illinois is broke, so they're scared, the lawmakers here, I'm scared of losing hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay, well, you're not losing hundreds of millions of dollars. What you're losing is tax dollars that's been taken out of our checks under Social Security and has been given to the federal government to be put into the Social Security fund. What the state of Illinois is losing is the drainage of your Social Security. So this is a lot bigger problem than just an Illinois problem, okay? So we're on D, the arrearage payment performance level, and then E, the cost effectiveness performance level. So E is the cost effectiveness of the program. Are they spending their funds wisely. So we're going to go down into some definitions now because I'm a definition guy. I'm all about definitions, and that's one of the biggest problems I have with the Marriage and Dissolution Act right now. We have things like substantial change in circumstance that has no definition for what a substantial change in circumstances. We have things like maximum involvement. There's no legal definition for maximum involvement. We have things like serious endangerment. There's no legal definition for serious endangerment. That means that all of this is left up to discretion. And when it's all left up to discretion, that's when you see different KC and the opponents will say, it's got to be this way. The judge has to have all this discretion because every case is different. Every case is unique. I rebut to them and say, no. While I admit that every case is unique, but that's not why we're seeing different judgments. The reason we're seeing different judgments is because we have discrimination. We have bias. We are all guilty of using personal biases in our lives. Whether you're strong enough of a person to admit it or not, it's the truth. And the sooner you can look in the mirror and say, yes, I am personally biased. I look at the world through a biased lens. As soon as you can admit that, life's going to get better for you. I promise. But, anyway, so we have personal biases. So when you leave a statute so broad with no definition of what, for example, let's say serious endangerment, has no standard. So if you are found to be a serious endangerment to your child, which has no legal definition, so that means it's up for opinion, it's up for interpretation depending on whoever is going to interpret it. Right? So if you're in courtroom in Cook County and a judge reads serious endangerment and there's no legal standard for serious endangerment, it's up to that judge's opinion to decide what he believes a serious endangerment is, because there's no guiding principles for him to go off of. So you see one judge that believes that a serious endangerment could be taking your kids to a Burning Man festival. You might go down in McHenry County, or come down here to Sangamon County, and you might have a judge sitting on the bench that is a regular avid attender of Burning Man Festival, and you go in there, and that judge says, well, I don't find taking my kids to Burning Man as a serious endangerment. So it's all up to opinion, and here's the problem with it being up to opinion, and we'll talk about the best interest of the children, because what is effectively happening is judges, bureaucrats that are in here lobbying for this legislation, which we'll get into the Republican Party platform and why I'm completely disgusted with Republicans right now later again. But, so lost my train of thought. Okay, so serious endangerment. And so we go down and we come down here in Sangamon County, Burning Man. This judge doesn't find anything wrong with taking your kids to Burning Man, but a judge up in Cook County does. You're going to get two different results. Okay? So you're going to get two different rulings based on that judge's opinion of what is a serious endangerment to that child. And that is the problem. So the judges are determining what is in the best interest of our children for us. The courts have taken away our rights to choose what is in the best interest of our children, and they tell us, no, you can't do this with your children. But another judge in a different county says, sure, you can do that. I'm okay with that. I don't find it a problem. I've taken my children to Burning Man. I took my children, we followed the Grateful Dead around the country. You know, it just depends on where you're at in the courtroom, so there's no legal definition. So I'm a big definition guy. I said all of that whole spiel just to get to our first definition. So A, paternity establishment. Determination of paternity establishment performance level. Determination of paternity establishment performance level. The paternity establishment performance level for a state for a fiscal year is at the option of the state. Okay? So, that's at the option of the state. The state can create a program to comply with it, or they cannot. They are on no federal guideline says that they have to have a program in place that complies with this, that makes them eligible for this federal funding. That's all on the states to choose that. The state of Illinois has chosen, okay, they have chosen to take money, create a program that gets them federal dollars into our state. So, they chose to do that, alright? And they, just like they do everything else, legislators are so good at this. We're doing it under the guise of a good cause. Okay? Alright. So, best interest of children. Children need money. Children need to be taken care of. If we don't have this program in place and we're not getting these federal dollars, we can't make sure that the kids' best interest is being looked at. We can't make sure that the kids are being taken care of. It's not your job, big brother. Anyhow. The 4D paternity establishment percentage determined under Section 452G2A, or the statewide paternity establishment percentage determined under Section 452G2B. Okay, so what have we done in Illinois? What program do we have set up? And pretty much across the country, I believe. But what system do we have in place for establishment of paternity? Well, what we have in place is a form that's called a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. It's called a VAP for short, a VAP. So if you ever hear anybody in the industry talk about VAP, the language, learn the language of your enemies, because learning the language of your enemies is the best way to defeat them, okay? VAP, a VAP, a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. When you go to the hospital as a father, okay? You go into the hospital as a father, the mother automatically has the rights to that child because she carried the child, she gave birth to the child. When you go into the hospital and you want to have your name put on that birth certificate, the nurses will come to you with a stack of paperwork. And they'll say, you got to sign all this stuff here, and this is how you get your name put on the birth certificate. Well, what you're signing is a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. Okay? So let's go into a situation where this woman cheated on her boyfriend, okay? She's never told him. She's pregnant. She doesn't think it's his kid, but she doesn't want to lose him, so she goes ahead and lets him believe that it's his kid. They go into the hospital. He signs that voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. 2 years down the road, comes back, find out that it's not his kid. DNA evidence proves that it is no way, chance in hell that it's his child. That man is still on the hook for the child support and the responsibilities for that child for the rest of that child's age, till they age out of the system. They don't care about connecting a child with their real parent. They don't use this establishment of paternity to actually track down the real parent of the child, which the child needs. All they care about is finding someone that they can slap an EIN number on. Because the more, okay, and this is where it gets interesting, okay, so determination of applicable percentage. The applicable percentage with respect to the state's paternity establishment performance is, level is as follows. Okay, so if they get at least 80%, if they establish paternity in at least 80% of all cases for a fiscal year, they get 100% of the allotment. Okay? Let's go look at the allotments real quick, and I'll get into where we're at today. Remember, this was in 2008, and this multiplies by the Consumer Price Index every year after 2008. But I'm just going to go to 2008 real quick. $483 million. $483 million. I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera around real quick just so you can see where I'm talking about. Right there, number 2008. $483 million. Okay? So, when Michael Strauss talks about the state has potential of losing hundreds of millions of dollars, yes, the state of Illinois has the potential to lose hundreds of millions of dollars. But if the state of Illinois doesn't lose that hundreds of millions of dollars, that's, by the way, is being used to pay for salaries for everyone in child support enforcement, state disbursements unit. It's being used to pay pensions. Okay, they've created a bureaucracy and created all these ghost jobs under the guise of the best interest of the children we got to collect for these children. $483 million is the baseline percentage. Okay, so, or the baseline amount. Okay, so if they got in 2008, if they in 80% of their cases have 80% of their cases they establish paternity in, they get 100% of that $438 million. Okay? Makes sense? You follow me? So that means, and this is just one area. Okay, this is one area. Okay, so they get their applicable percentage of that. Okay, if they do 79%, it goes down to 98%. 78%, it goes down to 96%, so on and so forth. Bottom of the chart, if they establish paternity in 50% of their cases, they get 60% of the allotment. Okay, so by what they're doing is by putting a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity together, you go into the hospital, a man automatically assigns this. The state has automatically established paternity. They call it voluntary. But they'll say things to you in the hospitals like, you have to sign this in order to get your name on the birth certificate. If you don't, we can't put your name on the birth certificate. Of course, you're a new dad. That's your kid. You want your baby, you want your son to have your last name, to carry on your genes, to carry on your legacy. Of course you're going to sign that paper. Whatever it takes. You're not sitting there thinking about, oh my God, this is a legal contract that I'm binding into for the rest of my life. You're not thinking about that. All you're thinking about is you're a new father and how proud you are to be a new daddy. Okay? So, that's how that one works. Now, remember, this is only Section A. Okay? Now, Section B, establishment of child support orders. Okay, this is where it gets really fishy. This is where it starts getting ugly, and you can see what the war on families is very real and why it's very real. Establishment of child support orders. Determination of support order performance level. The support order performance level for state and fiscal year is the percentage of the total number of cases under the state plan approved under this part, which there is a support order during that fiscal year. Let's put it into layman's terms. The more cases, the more child support cases they have open, the more money they get. Do you see why attorneys like Michael Strauss now and legislators and all these people that are depending on that $438 million? Okay? You see why they're holding on to it so hard? You see why when you go into a courtroom, it's not conflict resolution. It's about how much conflict can we stir up? How long can we have you fight? How long can we legislate? How long can we drag out this litigation so the lawyers make their peace? Okay? So, the more child support orders that we have open, the more federal dollars come into the state. And again, just like with establishment of paternity, it's the same thing. 80%, if you get 80% of all cases that come through, you get a support order established in there, you get 100% of the fees. So now, or of the allotment, right? Okay, so so now what you get is you've got a VAP. Yeah, how many different professionals can we involve? Exactly. How many hands can get in the cookie jar? Okay, so the more support orders we put in place, like I said, it goes down by the same percentages. All the way down. If 50%, if they get a support order put in place in 50% of the cases, they get 60% of the allotment. So this shows you why the courts are incentivizing, like I said, back to the title of this act, state incentive payments. They are incentivizing courts and judges and states to rip families in half and slap an EIN number on one parent and start a child support obligation. They don't care. Listen, we're going to get down into the arrearages here in just a minute and collecting current support, okay? Listen, we wonder why we see a lot of people on the other side of this argument say, child support enforcement, they're lazy. They don't do anything for you. He owes me $130,000, blah, 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 blah. Because it's in the state and child support and the bureaucracy's best interest, again, to allow you to go into arrears. They put child support payments up so high they won't modify them down, even though you don't have the ability to pay. They say, well, you have the potential to earn that amount of money. You earned that amount of money once in your life. That means you have the potential to earn that money again. And now that you're not making that kind of money, sucks to be ya, but I'm not lowering your support. People start falling behind. And when people start falling behind, then we got collection on current child support. So the more orders they get in place, put in place, they get more federal dollars coming into the state from that. Okay, so next we have collections on current support. So they have all these orders. Let's say they did a 800% child support orders were put in place. Okay, so now you've got collections on that. So as long as they are collecting on those, they're getting more incentive payments. So this is another part of the pool. Remember, I said there's 5 parts, and we're only on C right now. So we're only on number 3. And again, this goes down to a same table, just like before. 80% or better, you get 100% of the allotment coming to you. Remember, it's coming out of our Social Security Act. 2023, the disability portion of our Social Security Act will no longer be able to meet their obligations. They will only be able to pay out 89% of their obligation due to the lack of funds in the Social Security Bank for disability. Okay, so in 2023 is when this is projected. We're going to start seeing this thing snowball. That number is going to grow and grow and grow. And next thing you know, we're going to find ourselves in a position with Social Security where we are in Illinois currently with our pension crisis. That's another video for another day. We'll be talking a lot more about this stuff, man. Listen, I've showed you guys all the wild, crazy side of Steven. Okay, I'm going to tell you, I'm not afraid to go balls to the walls. I'm not afraid to be radical, okay? But I have a sensible side to me too. I use this. I read all the time. I study all the time. I might not have a college degree. I might not even have a high school diploma. But I have more knowledge in here that I have gained on my own than half of the people that are up here making our laws for us. And that's sad. So anyhow, okay, so collection of current support. So if they got 100% orders put in place, all right? They got 100% orders put in place. Now, are they collecting on all of those orders? So if they're collecting on all of those orders, those 100%, if they're collecting something, even $1 a month, okay? They're getting more money now. This is another section. This is section 3, okay? Now we're going to go down here to section 4, and this is where it gets really ugly, okay? Because this is what's pushing it up so high. This is what's letting them take you so far behind. When I was 20-some years old, maybe 23, I don't remember exactly. When I had my second child was born in 2003. My ex took me to court in 2005 to put a child support order against me. At that point, the judge calculated and put me in the arrears. Went retroactive, which I didn't know at the time. I was young and stupid. I'm 23 years old, okay? He went retroactive. I dropped out of high school. He went retroactive and put me in the hole $9,898. I started off my child support arrears $10,000 in the hole as a 23-year-old kid. With a 10% interest rate on that every year that adds up. So the little bit that I could afford to pay on it, I would pay it down, I'd pay it down throughout the year because they would take the $75 a week for my current order, and then they'd take another $25 for the arrearage. So they're collecting on the arrearage too, right? They're collecting something on the arrears. So now they're getting more money because they're collecting on my arrearage too. They stuck me in the hole. So now I got an arrearage. Okay, so look, let's see. I did a DNA test. Boom, they got me. They established paternity. They're getting money from me. Boom! They put a child support order in place. They're getting more federal dollars from me. By this time, I have an EIN number stamped on my head. Okay? And this is, I'll tell you guys, man, I'm not even going to get into it. Okay, so B, I have an EIN number now stamped on my head. C, they're collecting the current support, so there's more federal dollars they're able to get. D, they started me in arrears. They're collecting something on that arrears. So they're meeting up to their percentages to get the maximum federal dollars they can pull out of our Social Security Act. And again, 2023, the Disability Act's going to be broke. We're only going to be able to meet 89% of our obligation. Yeah, yes, Carolyn, exactly what happened. What actually happened to me on the situation was I was working a decent job at the time, which she got me fired from, and then, a funny story, then she told them that I willfully quit. But I'm not even going to bring up all that. But so what he did was he put me in for $75 a week. And he added that up from the time that my daughter was born until the court date where we were sitting there and decided that I owed $9,898. That was what my arrears were going to be. So that's how it started with me. He just made the current order that he put me on that day. He went back and there's a lot of funny stuff that went on. She changed my daughter's last name on me in court, told the judge that she didn't know how to locate me, but at the same time, she sent a income withholding order to my work and to my house on the same exact day that she told the judge that she didn't know how to locate me, and they allowed her to change my daughter's last name. Okay, I can't get too far off on a tangent though. Okay, so E is the cost effectiveness of the program. Okay, so the determination of the cost effectiveness performance level. The cost effectiveness performance level for a state or for fiscal year is equal to the total amount collected during the fiscal year under the state plan approved under this part, divided by the total amount expended during the fiscal year under the state plan, expressed as a ratio. So that right there, it tells you exactly how they do it. So determination of the cost effectiveness of the program. Let's look at it one more time. The total amount collected during the fiscal year and versus the total amount spent. And then you have a ratio. Okay. So if that ratio, the higher that ratio is, back again, if it's a 5.0, they get 100% of the allotment to them. If it's a 4.5, they get 90%, so on and so forth. And all the way down to 0%, they get 0%. So that is what Michael Strauss is talking about in a nutshell. Okay? And now as far as the parents losing their public aid benefits, that is a lie. That is the biggest lie there is. I dare anyone to pick up a phone, call your local DHS office, get a caseworker on the phone, and ask them that if you go and you and your ex and you agree to a 50-50 shared parenting plan, would you risk losing your benefits? The answer is going to be, if you are currently collecting benefits, absolutely not. They take no time into consideration when they are determining. All they take into consideration is your income. That's it. Okay? So, they, I kind of lost where I was going with that now. Okay, so that's a lie. You're not gonna lose. Okay, so, but what will happen is any new case going forward, any new case going forward, only one parent can collect the benefits. So a new case going forward, if 50-50 was to be put into place, they would have to decide which parent is going to collect the benefits. So this is where they're saying, oh, there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of litigation, blah, 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 blah. But actually there's not. There's not, because we already determined one parent as the custodial parent as far as for school purposes, right? So whatever parent they name as the custodial parent, that's the one that gets the claim. Or judges could be like, okay, which one of you financially qualifies for that matter? If one of you financially qualifies and the other don't, well, then the one that don't financially qualify is the one that gets to claim the benefits, right? Or the one that does financially qualify would be the one that gets to claim the benefits, because if it's the one who doesn't qualify, they're not getting benefits anyway. So, you're talking about a situation where you've got a small portion of our cases. So when they say ungodly amounts of litigation has happened in Cook County, I just kind of like with serious endangerment and stuff, I must say, Mr. Strauss, Mr. Michael Strauss, define ungodly amounts. Define it. Give me a definition for ungodly amount. Is an ungodly amount one case? Is an ungodly amount 6 cases? Is an ungodly amount thousands of cases? What is an ungodly amount? Define that for me, because this is what I'm finding in the opposition's arguments, is that they're not defining any terms. They're not defining any of the terms that they use, just like they never defined any of the terms that they used in the statutes that they currently wrote. And the reason they're holding on to it so tight is not only because of the money, but it's their pride and joy. It's their baby. And if they get proven that they messed up and they didn't define any of this stuff and they wrote a piece of garbage law, if that gets exposed, their credibility gets exposed as being able to draft competent legislation. Well, I can tell you right now that they don't draft competent legislation. It wasn't until this bill came out that anybody even read the statute as the clear and convincing coming off of a presumption of fitness. You can't find a parent unfit by preponderance of evidence. And I was happy to see the opposition or the proponents drop it out of the bill in the spirit of compromise. But what I wasn't happy to see was that the opposition kept arguing as if it was still there. They're still arguing as if it's still there. I say, Michael Strauss, let's talk about amendment number 2, would we? We'll talk about it for a different day. I just wanted to come on here and kind of give you guys a breakdown of the Social Security Act. Again, you guys, and what Michael Strauss was talking about, a little bit of context. You can go into your Google browser, you can type in Social Security Act Title 4D, and it will pull you up. You're going to scroll down to Section D. You're going to look for, I believe it's 458 under D. Incentive payments to states. I could be wrong on the number, but I think it's 458. Incentive payments to states. That's all I got for you guys right now, man. God bless you guys. Remember, people over politics. Peace out.